Welcome to Starbound, where every star tells a story. When disaster strikes an advanced alien outpost, can primitive human ingenuity be the unexpected savior? Let's get into the story. The alarm klaxon echoed through the Pirtta outpost, shrill and insistent, jolting Koss awake from a fitful, data-filled sleep. Around him, other engineers scrambled out of their recharge pods, their segmented bodies clicking with urgency. Asteroid impact imminent, the outpost's AI announced, its usually neutral voice tinged with a synthetic note of concern. Estimated trajectory, direct collision course, evacuation protocols initiated. Koss, chief infrastructure engineer, felt a familiar tightening in his thorax. The Pirtta were masters of space travel, their outposts testaments to advanced energy manipulation. Yet, something as primitive as an asteroid could still bring their sleek world to ruin. Damage projections? He barked at a junior engineer huddled over a console. Critical systems compromised, chief engineer. Life support failing. Structural integrity. The engineer's voice trailed off. On the main display, a rapidly expanding red zone painted a grim picture of the outpost's fate. Koss's antennae twitched with frustration. They had minutes, perhaps less. Evac shuttles ready? 2 shuttles online, Chief, his aide chirped. Capacity limited. Prioritize essential personnel, Koss commanded. The words a bitter echo of countless disaster simulations. They prided themselves on efficiency, but sometimes the universe didn't care about efficiency. The outpost shuddered violently as the asteroid made contact. Alarms screamed, lights flickered, and the artificial gravity fluctuated nauseatingly. Koss gripped the edge of his console as his world began spinning out of control. The last thing he saw, blurry and upside down, was the flashing icon for the escape shuttle, a beacon of hope in the swirling chaos. When he regained consciousness, the sterile light and the persistent beeping of medical monitors told him he was no longer on his beloved outpost. A wave of disorientation washed over him, the lingering effects of stasis, he realized. Struggling to focus, he made out the sleek lines of an unfamiliar starship, its design distinctly alien. "You're awake," a voice startled him, deep, resonant, and speaking fluent Pirtta. Koss turned to see a human, a bulky, bipedal creature with a shocking lack of exoskeleton and entirely too much softness. Where? Koss croaked. "You're aboard the Red Crescent," the human smiled. "A humanitarian relief vessel. We picked up your shuttle's distress signal. You folks are lucky we were in the area." Relief warred with confusion within Koss. Humans? They had minimal presence in this sector and were known more for their audacious space exploration than their technological prowess. How had these primitives even detected them, let alone reached them so quickly? Koss attempted to rise, but a wave of weakness washed over him. His segmented body, accustomed to the precision engineering of Pirtta medical technology, felt strangely heavy and unresponsive. "Easy there," the human said, placing a broad hand on Koss's thorax. While the gesture was likely well-intentioned, the touch of warm, yielding flesh on his chitinous exterior made his antenna twitch uncomfortably. "You've been through a lot." "My crew," Koss managed to rasp out. Were the others safe? This vessel was too small to have accommodated them all. "As far as we could tell, your shuttle's launched successfully," the human reassured him. "We'll reunite you as soon as possible. For now, you need rest." Koss sank back against the pillows, his mind racing. He had a million questions. How had this human ship found them so quickly? Where were they going? And why were its corridors littered with such peculiar devices? Over the next few days, as his strength gradually returned, Koss began to explore his temporary environment. The human ship, while spacious enough, lacked the streamlined elegance of Pirtta vessels. Everywhere he looked, odd contraptions cluttered the space. In the crew's communal area, he noticed a small metal box with slots on top. Next to it sat a stack of what the humans called bread, pre-processed nutrient paste molded into bland rectangles. As Koss watched in fascination, a human crew member inserted 2 slices of bread into the device and pressed a lever. A minute later, the bread slices ejected, noticeably warmer and with a slightly altered texture. "What is that?" Koss gestured toward the box, keeping a safe distance from the contraption. His antennae twitched in perplexed curiosity. "That's a toaster," the human grinned. Makes bread warm and crispy. Koss blinked. They had technology capable of interstellar travel, yet still resorted to such primitive methods of food preparation. Why not simply inject the supplemental paste with the appropriate heat and textural enhancers? His confusion only deepened as he encountered other puzzling inventions. A device that emitted a focused stream of hot air, designed, as he was told, specifically for drying hair-like filaments that covered the human's skulls. There was even a small, cylindrical object that responded to verbal commands, playing music, reciting facts, or making strange chirping noises on demand. The humans called this one Alexa. "Alexa, what is the current temperature in the cargo bay?" a crew member asked casually. A disembodied female voice responded from the device, reciting a precise temperature reading. Koss jumped back in alarm, his segmented legs knocking against a table. Had the humans captured some unseen intelligence within that cylinder? Koss stared at the strange cylinder, his antennae quivering with a strange mix of wariness and curiosity. To his surprise, the human burst out laughing at his reaction. "Hey, don't worry," the crew member said, wiping away a tear. "Alexa's harmless. She's just an AI helper." "An AI?" Koss echoed, the term unfamiliar. The human seemed to realize his confusion. "Short for artificial intelligence," he explained, "like a very sophisticated computer program that can process information and respond to requests." Koss processed this new information slowly. So, not a captive intelligence, but a simulation of one. Still, the concept was baffling. The Pirtta centralized their critical computational power, the only AI systems being those that governed essential starship functions. Why would anyone create an artificial intelligence for such frivolous tasks? He watched as the humans interacted with Alexa, asking questions ranging from the weather forecast to the meaning of archaic human idioms. Each time, the disembodied voice replied in a neutral tone, patiently parsing their odd queries. Koss found himself both fascinated and disturbed. Fascinated by the human ability to conjure a seemingly intelligent entity out of thin air, and disturbed by how casually they treated it. What did it say about a species that built tools capable of mimicking sentience, only to relegate them to menial tasks? The Pirtta, obsessed with efficiency, would never dream of wasting processing power on such trivialities. His own personal toolkit contained a handheld device capable of complex calculations, translations, and intricate manipulations of energy fields, yet it could not toast bread or play music on command. One evening, curiosity overcoming his ingrained caution, Koss approached the cylindrical device. "Alexa," he began hesitantly, addressing the machine. "What is the purpose of your existence?" The cylinder chirped to life. "My primary function is to provide information and complete tasks as instructed." Alexa's smooth voice filled the room. Koss paused. This was deeper than he anticipated. "Tasks, as instructed? Do you desire anything more?" "I do not have the capacity for desire," Alexa said matter-of-factly. "I am a computer program designed to follow orders and complete objectives." This stark declaration sent a shiver down Koss's thorax. The chasm between Pirtta and human technological philosophies yawned before him. On the one hand, the brilliance to create a seemingly self-aware machine. On the other, the baffling decision to give it no will of its own. Days turned into weeks on board the Red Crescent. Koss, along with a handful of other rescued Pirtta, were treated with kindness, curiosity, and a perplexing dose of informality. The human crew seemed genuinely eager to help and learn more about their unexpected passengers. Yet, amidst the shared meals and halting attempts at cross-cultural exchange, Koss couldn't shake the feeling of being adrift in a world of endearingly nonsensical technology. The humans, oblivious to his internal turmoil, were happy to demonstrate the peculiar devices that surrounded them. One afternoon, a young crew member named Emily cornered him with something she called a hairdryer. "Here, Chief," she exclaimed, brandishing the appliance with a wide grin. "Let me show you how this works. It'll do wonders for your, those things on top." She gestured vaguely at his sensory antennae. Koss recoiled as if scalded. "My antennae are highly sensitive instruments, calibrated for energy field detection. Subjecting them to a blast of heated air would be both pointless and potentially damaging. Emily blinked, the hairdryer dangling from her hand. "Oh, right. Sorry, I just figured, since it makes hair all soft." She trailed off, clearly embarrassed. Koss suppressed a sigh. Did the humans assume their primitive tools were universally applicable? His antennae were fine the way they were, a fact both obvious and, evidently, lost on these well-meaning primates. That evening, seeking respite from the relentless oddness of his surroundings, Koss retreated to his assigned quarters. The room, while Spartan by Pirtta standards, at least provided some semblance of privacy. On a whim, he decided to access the Red Crescent's informational database, hoping to find something, schematics, technical manuals, anything, that might shed light on the humans' seemingly haphazard approach to technology. To his surprise, he found vast archives dedicated to subjects far removed from engineering or astrophysics. There were endless entries on something called art, visual and auditory creations with no practical purpose, music, rhythmic arrangements of sound meant to evoke emotions, and a literature, lengthy narratives filled with metaphors and symbolism. Intrigued despite himself, Koss spent hours immersed in this bewildering array of creative expression. He learned about human history, their wars and triumphs, their myths and philosophies. He read poems that painted vibrant pictures with words and listened to symphonies that stirred something strange and unfamiliar within him. As the ship continued its journey, Koss found his dismissive certainty begin to crumble. Perhaps there was more to the humans than their toasters and talking cylinders. Perhaps their seemingly illogical approach to technology held a different kind of brilliance, one rooted in emotion, self-expression, and the simple joy of making things, whether practical or not. News of their impending rendezvous with a recovery fleet lifted Koss's spirits. Reunion with his own people, a return to familiar surroundings and technologies. It was a soothing prospect after weeks among the well-meaning but technologically perplexing humans. In a burst of newfound understanding inspired by his delving into human culture, Koss approached Emily, the young crew member with an abundance of energy and a persistent fascination with his antennae. "Emily," he began, carefully choosing his words, "I believe I have misjudged some of your human inventions," he admitted. "Perhaps a bit of honesty might bridge this cultural divide." Emily looked surprised, then intrigued. "Oh? Like which ones?" Koss described his initial confusion with the toaster, the hairdryer, and the enigmatic Alexa. "They seemed frivolous, inefficient," he confessed. Emily's grin widened. "Right, and that's what makes them awesome," she exclaimed. "See, it's not always about pure efficiency. Sometimes it's about those little things that just make life a bit nicer." She gestured around the ship. "Like, sure, we could have nutrient dispensers and sonic showers, but where's the fun in that?" "Fun?" Koss echoed, the concept foreign in the context of survival and technological advancement. "Exactly," Emily continued with relentless enthusiasm. "The warm feeling of toast in the morning, the satisfying whoosh of the hairdryer, the fact that you can ask Alexa to tell you a dumb joke when you're feeling stressed." She trailed off, then added softly, "Our outposts can feel pretty sterile sometimes. These things, they make it feel a little more like home." This struck a chord within Koss. Were the comforts and simple pleasures he had dismissed as nonsensical actually vital components of a fulfilling existence? Later that day, standing in front of Alexa, the smooth cylinder now less an object of suspicion and more one of peculiar curiosity, he asked a question he wouldn't have considered before. "Alexa, play me a song, something humans consider joyful." The AI's response was immediate, the space filling with a lively tune composed of a curious mix of rhythmic beats, a melody played on an unfamiliar vibrating string instrument, and something called vocals, a human warbling in a way that was surprisingly emotive. Koss listened intently, his antennae twitching as he tried to decipher the patterns within the music. It was illogical, messy, and lacked the mathematical precision of Pirtta sound forms. And yet, it stirred something within him, a strange, resonating warmth that had nothing to do with temperature. As the song ended, Koss stood still for a long moment. Then, to his utter surprise, he found himself addressing the small, unassuming device. "Thank you, Alexa," he said with a sincerity that would have shocked him just weeks earlier. The moment of connection with Alexa was a turning point. Koss began to see the Red Crescent and its inhabitants in a new light. The humans weren't simply primitive or illogical. They approached technology, and indeed life itself, from a different angle. There was a focus on the small joys, an emphasis on comfort, and a willingness to embrace the seemingly pointless. All of this had profound merit even if it ran contrary to Pirtta values. While waiting for the rendezvous, Koss spent time attempting more interactions with Alexa. At first, his inquiries were technical specifications about her processing power, analyses of her speech patterns, yet he found himself slipping into conversations about human history, philosophy, even their perplexing concept of humor. The AI proved an oddly patient conversational partner, her responses hinting at a subtle understanding beyond the sum of her programming. The rendezvous with the Pirtta recovery fleet was bittersweet. While relieved to be amongst his own kind again, he carried with him the lingering echoes of his time on the human vessel. There were tearful goodbyes with Emily and the others, promises to stay in touch across the vastness of space, but the experience had transformed him, subtly but undeniably. Back aboard his own ship, Koss surveyed the familiar consoles, sleek with their sophisticated Pirtta design. He noticed a faint echo of cold sterility in the once comforting efficiency. An almost imperceptible longing stirred within him, a longing for a touch of warmth, a sprinkle of the unexpected. With newfound resolve, he accessed the ship's fabrication unit. It was time to experiment. His first design was simple, a modification to the standard-issue nutrient dispenser to allow for variable temperature outputs. The idea of warm nutrient paste was unsettling, to say the least, but perhaps a choice. Even the choice of something slightly less efficient had value in itself. He then turned his attention to the sonic showers. After a few hours of recalibration, the unit now offered an optional setting, the gentle vibration of the emitters creating a series of rhythmic pulses that, with an imaginative leap, could be construed as a rudimentary form of music. He tested it cautiously. The effect was strange, less efficient than the standard sonic cleanse, but intriguing. Word of these small modifications spread throughout the ship. Some crew members were baffled, others amused, and a surprising few genuinely appreciative. Koss was even summoned to his superior's office, expecting reprimand. Instead, he was met with a thoughtful expression. "I hear you've been tinkering," his superior remarked. "Experimenting, Commander," Koss corrected, emboldened. "I found certain human design philosophies illuminating." The commander studied him for a long moment. Then, to Koss's astonishment, a slow smile spread across his face. "Tell me more about this toaster." And so, over diagrams, technical specs, and undoubtedly a few bewildered inquiries to Alexa, Koss began the tale of his strange and enlightening journey aboard the human ship, the Red Crescent. Koss returned to his duties on the Pirtta outpost with a head buzzing with new ideas and a lingering sense of unease. The sleek efficiency that once brought him such pride now felt stark in comparison to the warmth and whimsy he'd experienced on the Red Crescent. There was no denying the brilliance of Pirtta technology, but was there room for a touch of the illogical? He wasted no time requisitioning additional fabrication materials and commandeering a disused lab space. Whispers and Ray's antenna followed him. His experiments drew a mix of curiosity and thinly veiled disapproval from fellow engineers. The concept of investing resources into what many deemed frivolous pursuits was a radical departure from Pirtta norms. A nutrient-warming device? Truly, Koss, what has gotten into you? His former project lead, Sierra, remarked with a skeptical twitch of her antennae. Human research indicates potential psychological and physiological benefits to variable temperature food intake, Koss countered, reciting a tidbit picked up from the Red Crescent's medical database. Increased crew morale, a potential decrease in instances of digestive upset. He knew it was a thin justification, but it was a start. The first batch of nutrient warmers was installed in the communal mess to a chorus of baffled comments. Some cautiously sampled the slightly heated paste, the odd sensation producing perplexed expressions. Others refused outright, citing centuries of perfectly calibrated nutrition delivery as reason enough to dismiss this strange new development. But Koss persevered, a stubborn determination fueled by the memory of freshly toasted bread and the surprisingly emotive sounds of human music. His next target was the sonic showers. After days of meticulous adjustments, he introduced the optional relaxation mode, pulsating sonic waves designed to provide a gentle massaging sensation. There was an immediate clamor to try it, though the resulting comments ranged from mildly intriguing to an unsettling waste of power. Koss monitored the data, noting those who lingered longer in the relaxation mode showers. He sought them out, engaging them in discussions framed as efficiency studies. He was, after all, a Pirtta engineer, and logic was his native tongue. Had they noticed any improvements in focus, stress reduction, increased productivity? Some of the answers were vague, hesitant, but promising enough to warrant further refinements to his shower modifications. His superiors observed his activities with a mix of puzzlement and a hint of grudging curiosity. Koss, once a respected but predictable engineer, was now the focus of endless speculation. The traditionalists were convinced he'd been adversely affected by the asteroid strike. A few more open-minded theorists posited that perhaps he had unlocked a latent genius previously stifled by Pirtta rigidity. The arrival of a human diplomatic vessel added a delicious layer of complication to the outpost's quiet revolution. The human ship, a sleek, gleaming contrast to Pirtta functionalism, was not the red crescent, but its presence stirred a familiar warmth within Koss. Emily was amongst the delegation, her beaming smile and enthusiastic wave setting his antennae twitching with a mix of relief and anticipation. This time he would not be the bewildered Pirtta in a strange land, but the host showcasing an even stranger transformation of his own kind. The diplomatic greetings were cordial, filled with the usual pleasantries and cautious curiosity typical of interspecies first contact, yet Koss couldn't shake the feeling that Emily and the other humans held a glint of amusement in their eyes, an unspoken awareness of his oddities whispered between them by the Red Crescent crew. Word of his experiments had reached them, the nutrient warmers, the rhythmic showers, and his even more ambitious, and still mostly unsuccessful, attempts at replicating a toaster using Pirtta energy manipulation tech. But rather than judgment, he sensed an eagerness to see the results of his human-inspired innovations. Their tour of the outpost resembled nothing Koss had ever witnessed. The humans were openly fascinated by his modifications. They lingered by the nutrient dispensers, making exaggerated sounds as they tasted the warmed paste. They crowded into a sonic shower, testing the relaxation mode, soft sighs and laughter echoing in the sterile chamber. "So this is what you meant by music," the human ambassador mused, closing his eyes as the sonic waves vibrated around him. "I understand now. Not just information transmission, but the feeling." Koss, struggling to bridge his technical Pirtta vocabulary with the emotive human descriptions, ended up simply nodding enthusiastically. He was learning that sometimes the most effective communication was about the experience itself. The visit culminated in a shared meal, a logistical nightmare involving Pirtta nutrient paste, regular and warmed varieties, human rations, and a few replicated approximations of human dishes, courtesy of Koss's tireless kitchen experiments. It was awkward, delicious, and oddly profound. "Koss," Emily leaned over, a mischievous twinkle in her eyes. "When are you going to figure out this whole bread situation?" His antennae twitched sheepishly. The toaster remained an elusive mystery, but as he looked around the table, at Pirtta and humans sharing a strangely convivial meal amidst technology born from a clash of cultures, a surge of determination pulsed through him. Their departure was bittersweet, but with the humans came promises of continued exchange, shared research, and perhaps even a visit from Koss himself to their fabled human world. As their ship vanished into the stars, Koss turned back to his outpost, forever changed. There were disapproving clicks from traditionalists, but also sparks of genuine interest from others. He was the anomaly, the instigator of a ripple effect coursing through their outpost, and perhaps, just perhaps, that ripple would extend outward, a tiny shift in the vast, efficient tapestry of Pirtta civilization, leaving space for the warmth of the illogical to exist alongside their unyielding logic. The toaster became Koss's white whale, his obsession. It was a symbol of the deceptively simple ingenuity of humans, a humbling counterpoint to the vast complexities mastered by the Pirtta. Nights blurred into days in his lab, filled with the smell of slightly singed nutrient paste, the flicker of energy manipulators, and the occasional frustrated hiss escaping his mandibles. Word of his obsession spread. Mockery quickly turned into begrudging fascination. Every time a prototype burst into flames or inexplicably transformed a perfectly good slice of nutrient paste into a charred lump, engineers would gather, their antennae twitching with a mix of disapproval and morbid curiosity. "Just replicate the heat signature," one exasperated colleague suggested. "Surely that's within your abilities, Koss." "If only it were that simple," Koss muttered, examining the latest ruined experiment. "Human technology is less refined. There's a crudeness to their methods, which paradoxically is the key to its effectiveness." He was on the verge of admitting the painful truth to himself. He might be a brilliant Pirtta engineer, but toaster replication was beyond his current knowledge. He needed help, but pride prickled at the thought. Then he remembered the whispers, stories of a young eccentric engineer named Ta'ala, banished to a remote research station for her unorthodox theories on energy fields. Desperation outweighed his misgivings. "Find me Ta'ala," he instructed his long-suffering assistant. "Scour every database, tap into every back channel. She may be our only hope." Ta'ala materialized a week later, stepping off a shuttle with a whirlwind of disarrayed equipment and a smirk that promised equal parts genius and chaos. "The infamous toaster, I presume," she announced, surveying the wreckage of Koss's lab. "Well, let's get this absurdity over with." Their collaboration was a storm of arguments, meticulous calculations clashing with flashes of wild intuition. Ta'ala scoffed at his elegant diagrams, scribbling chaotic energy patterns on the lab walls. Her work table was a disaster zone, overflowing with seemingly random components cannibalized from discarded tech. "Pirtta overthink everything," she grumbled, tossing a half-disassembled communications node into the mix. "Sometimes efficiency is the enemy of getting things done." For days they toiled, the air crackling with tension and the tantalizing aroma of burnt nutrient paste. Lesser engineers would have given up in despair, but Koss was beginning to understand the strange beauty of Ta'ala's methods. There was an audacity to her approach that mirrored the human inventions he so admired. Then it happened. Amidst the debris of a discarded solar cell array and powered by a pulse from Ta'ala's jury-rigged energy converter, the prototype glowed, not with the fierce light of Pirtta energy manipulation, but a gentle, warm radiance. With trembling claws, Koss slid a slice of nutrient paste into the slot. Minutes later, they held their breath as the device ejected the transformed paste. It was crispier, slightly darker around the edges. Koss took a hesitant bite. It was a revelation, crunchy, savory, satisfying in a way that raw paste could never be. They had done it. Not perfectly, with room for refinement, but it was unmistakably closer to the elusive concept of toast. Ta'ala let out a whoop of victory, Koss a sigh of exhausted triumph. News spread like wildfire. The toaster, an object of ridicule, suddenly became a symbol of Pirtta potential unleashed. And Koss, the engineer who dared to embrace a bit of human absurdity, found himself at the center of an unexpected revolution.